Hello again, we've now reached part 6 of our series, and here we want to look at a few tricks. Let's find some text, and we notice in the text that some of it is underlined and we would rather have it italic. So how we do that with manual find and replace? We leave the find what box blank, and that means find anything. So we want to find anything that's underlined, and we want to replace it with that which we have found, which is the caret ampersand that we've seen before. We want it to be italic, so we use Control I for that. But we want to switch the underline off, so we can do that with 2 clicks, Control U, and we're back to no underline. So let's try that. So that's made those changes. So let's just undo that. How do we do that with FRedit? Well, we have to have a find and replace which finds nothing and replaces it with caret ampersand. Now the problem with that is that any line in FRedit that has a vertical bar at the beginning of the line is ignored by FRedit because it says that's a comment. So what we need to do is have some way of saying that I want the find what box blank. Well, okay, how about blank? In other words, the macro sees the word blank and says, okay, you mean leave the find what box blank. So we want to find anything that's underlined, and the replace side is not underlined, so that's going to switch the underlining off. And how do we make it italic? Well, as before, we make the whole line italic, and that should do the trick. So let's try running FRedit. And so it does. Right, so the second thing we want to look at is these CO2s, because we'd rather have the 2 of the CO2 subscripted. So how do we do that? Well, unfortunately we can't just do CO2, replace it with CO, and then 2 subscripted, because a find and replace can only replace the whole find and replace with subscript. You can't do a bit of ordinary and a bit of subscript. So we have to use a trick. So if we put that back to ordinary, what we do is to replace it with something that won't appear anywhere else in the document, such as : 2. And so that identifies the 2 there as being one which needs to be subscripted. So then in the next line we can do : 2 and replace that with 2, but in doing so we also want to subscript it, so we put that as subscript. And let's try that. Run FRedit, and there we are. We've got the CO2 which has been done appropriately, and if we want to do more of them, then we have the same sort of thing. Here we go. I've done them like this. Let's get rid of that. So I've got 3 of them there for the 3 different chemicals, and so let's undo them just so make sure we get them done. They do actually work. So if we run this one, sorry, I forgot to click in the text, didn't I? There we go. Alright, so that's that one. So for our final one, let's just get rid of that. You remember this one? This is for number ranges. We've got a number range here, 14 to 17. So this is the find and replace that will put an n dash, that's that, instead of the hyphen that it finds. The problem there, of course, is that if we switch track changing on and try and do this, then we get this, the fact that Word screws up the find and replace for us, and so that's not going to work. So what we have to do is be a little bit devious. So let's undo this and go back to where we were. Right, so let's get rid of that for the moment and show you what we do instead. Right, so we use 3 find and replaces, 2 of which, the first and the third, have a strike-through line, which means they are not going to be tracked. The middle one is tracked, and that's the one that the client will see the result of. So the first line changes it to : hyphen. So we've identified which hyphens we're talking about that need changing to n dash. Then we actually change those hyphens with the track changing on, and then we get rid of the double colons, and that's not tracked, so they won't see that. So let's have a go at that and see if it works. There we go. We have done that. So actually that's it for now, and I hope you enjoyed those tricks. Thanks for watching.